So I think that was the hardest time. It was a dark time.
It was a real dark time.
It was a really dark time for us. What's going on, YouTube?
What up?
It is just the party of two today, and we thought it's a good idea to talk about our story, where it all began.
Our humble beginnings, if you will.
Our struggling beginnings. I was born in the Philippines, and I came to America when I was 2 years old. My dad came first with his family, so technically my family are the first generation. So we're legal.
Yes.
No one's getting deported. I'm not getting deported. I'm legal. I'm a legal citizen.
So they moved to a town called, where'd you guys move to first? Hercules?
We lived in Hercules.
And Hercules in California, which is
very, very small town in the Bay Area.
Yeah, it's like 15-20 minutes away from where I was born and raised, is a town called Vallejo. It's the only town in California to go bankrupt, and it has a Six Flags. That's how I can't remember it.
I moved to Vallejo when I was, I want to say, second grade. That's where I grew up.
We bounced all around Vallejo. I enlisted in the Army when I was like 17, and my recruiter said that we was black gypsies because we had like 13 addresses that I had to put on file by the time I was 17 years old. So we was all over the place.
Fast forward to high school. We met when we were 15 years old. It is so hard to talk with my braces. It's like not natural.
It's not natural.
Natural. Ow, I'm like scratching my...
Scratching my gulai.
So, your vegetables? Oh gosh.
Oh my gulai. Anyway, what were we saying?
He went to one high school, then he moved, and we met in 10th grade, so we were 15 years old. And we've been together since we were 15 years old.
Yep.
And I think we probably broke up like
30 times.
30 times in high school. So who's counting? 36 times. I'm just...
They weren't real breakups.
No.
Doesn't matter.
Moving on.
We loved each other so much at 15 that I dropped down on a knee to propose in her van. She thought I was crazy, but here she is right now. The following year that we were together was our junior year in high school, and one of my goals since I was a kid, since around September of 2001, was to enlist into the military. And I went ahead and did that at 17 years old. And luckily I had her here. She would write me back and forth and kept in contact with me and supported me into my enlistment.
I think that was a very hard year. It was senior year. When he came back from basic training, I was so excited about senior year. Trying to graduate on time was a struggle. I think that was your struggle that year, wasn't it?
Yeah, that was pretty much impossible based off of just being gone the year before.
Right.
And having promises made by the school and by the military that those courses would be made up, and they weren't credited, so that didn't happen for me.
So we were wrestling that year, and right in the middle, or right towards the end of our wrestling season, I found out I was pregnant. So we missed at that was like the last, like maybe 3 months, 3-4 months of the school year that we were trying to make sure we graduate. And when I found out I was pregnant, I was 6 months pregnant. 6 months. I was not showing. I was still wrestling. She
just couldn't lose weight when she was trying to cut down to the next weight bracket. And she was stuck at this same weight. We're like, why won't you stop eating at home? We know you're eating. And she was like, I'm not. I've been starving for days.
If you wrestled, you know the struggle.
Yeah.
It was either I I stayed the same weight or I gained an ounce. Like it was a struggle. So that was
that baby
was,
Lena.
That was Lena, number one.
Yeah.
Baby number one.
On top of all of that, even though we lived in Vallejo in California, in the center of this diverse melting pot, both of our parents were culturally intolerant. They did not. My mother told me specifically, do not bring home an Asian woman. Do not. And specifically Filipino. For some reason, she felt like all the Filipinos in the world had slighted her the wrong way. And conversely, her father felt the same way about black people. Coming from another country,
old
school ways of thinking. We're not condoning the way that they thought. They were both wrong. They weren't the bad guys per se, but they were not the good guys.
Like I said, we're not trying to throw them under the bus.
Mm-hmm.
They're just.
No. They just needed a perspective change.
Yeah, I think that's a good word for that.
So they got a perspective change when I came home with my Filipino girlfriend, and
that was hard.
That was not easy.
That was very hard. Even though we lived in a very diverse melting pot. I think that's another story, how we brought each other home. That's a whole.
Yeah, that's another.
That's a whole different story.
2 videos.
Maybe we'll talk about that.
Yeah, that's all right. Anyway.
After we graduated from high school, we had Lena, our firstborn. So I was pregnant at 17, and then 18 we had our firstborn. So we were young parents, a teachable time for the rest of our life.
Absolutely. When we couldn't find solace with our families, like the acceptance we needed, we turned to the church. So we joined this church called Liberty Christian Center, and I don't know if they're called that now, but in Fairfield, in California. And we found a family there. And with that family, we learned that we are also teachers, and we learned to minister to the youth and talk to kids that were younger than us, and we shared our story with them, and we helped them out a ton. And we cared about those kids so much that we got married during a youth service with those kids. We surprised them. That was one of the more happy times, at least in my life. Not only was I marrying this beautiful woman right here, but it was with a whole bunch of people that we cared about.
We had Jenny at 21, and he re-enlisted into the military.
Active duty this time.
Active duty.
And it was, I needed the benefits. I needed to take care of my wife and my 2 daughters. At this point, I didn't really have a place to go, even though I had to take care of them, and we're heavily active in the church. So I was living with my father-in-law, who was not a fan, and it was a tough situation. So I decided to go ahead and re-enlist, and we did. And that's when,
shortly after he enlisted, he deployed. At the time, I think this is our thought process, or his thought process at the time. When he got back from basic training, we were stationed at Fort Carson, and maybe we were living at Fort Carson for a few weeks, and then we found out that he was deploying to Iraq. So we're like, you know what? This is what he said. He was like, you know what? I want a son. Okay.
Yeah.
So, and it was our first deployment. So he said, if anything happens to me, maybe we could have a son. So we tried for a son.
And we got our most rough and tumble child out of that, and that's our 3rd daughter, Jasmine.
Our 3rd daughter. And so this time of our life, he was deployed. I had the support of my family back home, and I was pregnant. with number 3. Lena was 3. Ginnalee was 9 months, and I was pregnant, and he was deployed. But with the support of my family and his family, I was able to go through the pregnancy, and he made it to the birth of Jasmine. It was
a crazy day.
As soon as he touched down, I had contractions. What was your flight? How many hours was your flight?
We flew from Iraq to Kuwait, and then I ended up being home. So it was like a day and a half long trip. I touched down, and Lily went into labor pretty much shortly after that on her birthday, and we had Jasmine that day. It was a crazy day.
Crazy day.
I fell asleep.
While I was pushing, he was asleep. Anyway, that's another story.
I was holding her hand though, but it was a long flight.
He pretty much was asleep during my labor, but whatever.
When I finally got back from my deployment, I remember it was the 7th of March, and
we already moved back to Colorado.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was super happy to see my family, and I remember we went back home, and I went to go see my mother and father-in-law and my mom and everybody, and this was the first time since my wife and I had been together that my father-in-law finally looked me in my eyes and shook my hand and said, "I have confidence that you will take care of my daughter and of your kids," and finally accepted me on the day I got back, which was March 7th, 2012. 2012?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So 2012, 12 days later, we flew back home to Colorado, and then 12 days later, we got a call in the middle of the night saying that he had passed away in a tragic accident.
Yes. So my dad passed away shortly after he came back from deployment. And if anybody knows the transition of deployment and just trying to find military life, if the military Some of you may know, as a military wife, after deployment, that transition with the kids, trying to have a normal routine, trying to get back into a normal routine, and him transitioning into kind of a civilian life, it's the most difficult thing ever. You don't know, and it was our first deployment, so I didn't know what to expect. So that transition and his mental state and my dad's death, it was so hard, and I had 3 kids. I think that was the hardest time. It was a dark time.
It was a real dark time.
It was a really dark time for us.
Shortly after that, we got a new chance, to start life over a little bit.
That was, do you think that was the roughest time?
Yeah, that was definitely the roughest time in our relationship.
Yeah, especially,
for sure.
Especially
in
it
our
put
lives,
it put a heavy strain on our marriage.
All of us. Not just the marriage, but all of us.
Like our kids, and then we had to come back to Colorado and try the normal routine. So that was, and then we had to work on our marriage and try to be on the same page.
Yeah.
So that was a difficult chapter in our lives. While we were living in Colorado, we had Joshua.
The boy.
And
the one and only boy.
We had Joshua in Colorado in 2013, and I think that was during that struggle time.
Yeah.
God was like, you know what? You guys
need something new.
Mm-hmm.
And he shot us the boy.
He blessed us with a baby boy. Finally.
He sent us triple. He sent us little triple. I call him sometimes. And even though he's a fourth, that's a story for another day. But he sent us triple. And that was just a glue for our family to come back together and be together, and something more for us to worry and be concerned about and love, other than what was already going on. So it was a really big blessing to have him in our lives.
Mm-hmm. After Colorado, we were stationed in Alaska, the pit of Alaska.
This one right there.
That pit. Are you sweating? Ew.
Not enough for it to represent Alaska.
We were stationed in Fairbanks, Alaska.
Which is up north, which is 15 minutes south?
Yes, from the North Pole.
South.
We're 15 minutes south of the
North Pole, Alaska.
Like Santa Claus Town, where the town has candy canes as the street lights, and it's
like a 45-foot Santa Claus
where it's Christmas
standing in the street all year round.
Yep.
It's Christmas.
So we were there, just like,
shout out to North Pole Church though. Like, they are
North
phenomenal.
Pole Christian
Yeah, they're phenomenal. Go ahead.
We were there for 2 years, and it was dark 9 months out of the year. We learned how to drive on an ice skating rink without any chains on our tires.
Yeah.
It was cold.
If you take an ice skating rink and pour water on top of it, that's what it was like.
It was rough, but we learned. And at that time, we were growing together, we were maturing together, and it was a good time for us. I think God put us there for a reason, and we came back strong.
Yeah.
I think, despite the negative 50-degree weather. Yeah. And just like any military move, if you love it, you're there. But if you don't,
you make the best out.
You make the best out of it. And we did. We made the best out of it for 2 years. After the few years that we were in Alaska, he got medically discharged from the military. So he got out of the Army. And we went back home to California.
It was a glorious year in California with sun.
Nice. It was so nice.
We went to Coachella. That was phenomenal. Such a good time with our family.
And so that chapter wrapped up 8 years of the military. And we went home, and we wanted to buy a house there, but it was just so expensive with our kids. And we missed Colorado. We missed the mountains. We missed the mountains. We missed the views.
We missed the outdoor life.
Yeah, the outdoor.
We missed the incline.
And so we decided, we came out to Colorado. We looked at some homes, and we built our home out here. And it was cheaper, and it's very family friendly, and the lifestyle was more our pace. Do you think so?
No.
No.
God wanted us out here, so
yes. Yeah. So we came out here, and we're starting a new chapter here. He became a firefighter. I am a cosmetologist out here, and I swallowed some spit.
Stop.
Oh, was that your finger?
No, it
oh
wasn't.
my God.
What was this thing?
Whew. Now we're on this chapter of this YouTube journey that we're excited about, and we want to share. What is our goal for YouTube? Like, what do you think?
I mean, I personally just think it's important for us to share a lot of our journey, like where we came from and where we're at now, how we got there, how we
Blended our two different cultures
how we
together.
blended our cultures and overcame diversity, and how we became something new. And that, you know, you don't have to be worried despite what your family thinks or your friends or the community about doing something like that, about making something new, because new things are awesome. They're legit. I love new things. So yeah, we're good. I mean, we just we made us, we got us, you know, and I want to share that with you guys.
Our story.
Yeah,
I
this is
think
our
that's
story.
important. Our story, our life as how we went from high school sweethearts to now. And I think we have a story to tell.
And it's still evolving, and it's still growing, and it's still maturing. But I know one thing for sure: we out here killing the game. Killing the game.
Oh,
I'm just saying. That's all I'm saying. We out here killing. We killing it. Don't worry about what she's saying. We killing it.
What'd you say? Can I do that?
No.
Can I do that?
No, you can't.
Why not?
Stop.
What do we do?
Yeah, you guys do that. Yeah. So, hey, thank you guys for watching. We really appreciate you. We're so happy you tuned in. We hope you got something from what we're delivering to you.
From the bottom of our hearts, we do.
Yeah.
So please comment, subscribe, request, follow us on Instagram, Adkins Party of 6, and hit that notification bell. I think that's like important these days.
Yeah, hit that notification bell.
Hit that bell. Hit that bell. That little bell. Right here. Okay.
Is it there? Is it?
All right.
I thought it was over.
I don't know.
Is it? I thought. Where's the
I'm
bell?
not
Over here.
The bells.
right here? Okay, right
Over
here.
in the corner.
Wait.
Yes.
No, but
It's
if you're
in the
watching.